What's up everyone? Welcome to Jamestown. I'm James and today I'm going to walk you through step by step each contract that you'll need to wholesale real estate. Stick around to then and I'll hook you up with my contracts that I've used to close deals month after month that'll keep you and your deals protected. Let's go. Alright, so a real quick overview of the contracts that we're going to cover are the purchase and sale agreement, which is the first contract, and that's between the wholesaler and the seller. And then you've got the assignment contract, which is between the wholesaler and the end buyer. And then there's the extra contracts, which are going to be your JV agreements, your operating agreements, as well as any addendums you might need. But first, let's take a look at which contract system I actually use. All right, so for the contract system that I use is good old trusty DocuSign. Now I tried DocuSign when I first started and I just never tried anything else. It only cost me $45 a month and I can send an unlimited amount of any kind of contract to anybody. And that $45 a month is only $25 if you pay annually, which I'm about to do soon because my wholesale business is growing rapidly. And if you're worried about not being able to use it, as you're gonna see here when I roll through these examples, it's extremely user interface friendly and it's great. All right, first we're gonna go over the PSA as I call it, or the purchase and sale agreement. Now this is the contract between you, the wholesaler, and the seller. And this is the contract that's used day to day in every normal real estate transaction. So for example, if your parents were going to retire and buy a new home and a real estate agent found it for them and they signed a contract with it, that would be the exact same contract that you're signing with the sellers in your wholesale deals. All right, so the PSA that was used in your hypothetical parents' home purchase would be far more generic and standard to the state that it's in, as well as prepared by the real estate agents. Now, the contracts that wholesalers want to use should be tailored far more to the needs of a wholesaler or real estate investor and not around that of a retail home purchase. All right, now I'm going to run you through the contract from start to finish, and you'll see that it's quick, easy, and painless. Let's go. Okay, and here is the purchase and sale agreement. So there's normally a plus sign here. You'll click it, find whatever document you want in your computer and upload it, which I did. Hit next. Then you put in your name, the wholesaler, your email address, and then the seller's name, seller's email address. That's how it's going to send it to them. Hit next, and now we're in the contract. So this contract is entered into between the buyer, this is going to be your name, and this is my wholesale business name, the entity I use, with the address of, and here's my business office address, and the seller, this is where you would put his name. So you actually go up to the top left to switch between whose information you're going to be putting in. So I go to the seller, put in their name. Super simple, just click and drag their address. It's usually the address of the property you're selling, or buying. So let's say 123 example drive, Chicago. All right. So that's it there. Now you could also, if you want to, you can leave it blank. And if you click on the seller's name and then click text, this is going to be a box that when they go to fill out the contract, they're going to be able to type whatever they want into there. So you can leave it like that. So this will be their full name, then they'll type in their address. So then this is just describing what opening is considered when this contract is executed. This is the property address. So it's described below as, and then go back to your name since you're making the contract, text 123 example drive, Chicago, Illinois. All right. So that's the address of the property that you're purchasing, which may also be the same as the seller's address. All right, purchase price of the property. So purchase price is going to be written in by you again by just making a text box. And let's say it is $100,000. You would type it just like that. If you don't know how you're supposed to correctly type numbers in word form, you can just literally Google $100,000 word form, which is what I did when I first started, and it'll tell you the correct way to actually type it out. And then in here, you're just gonna put the number in number form. You don't need a dollar sign because it's right there in my contract. All right, earnest money deposit. So for earnest money, I usually put a little bit in just for technicality, but it doesn't really matter. So I'll do $10, sometimes I'll do $50, depends on what I'm feeling. And then you type in the remaining balance. So $10 off of 100,000 would be 99,990 that you would have to pay at COE, which is the close of escrow. So that's when your deal closes. When the deal closes, you would be paying the rest of the money. Now this isn't going to matter because you're going to wholesale this contract. This describes the earnest money deposits. All right, financing, cash. Just basically means that you're not waiting on any sort of financial contingencies to purchase the property. Always going to be making cash offers. This is always going to be what you're checking. The inspection period, which is obviously the time frame which you now can use to go shop the property around to potential buyers. I usually go with 14 days. So you just fill that in here. Then buyer initial. There's a whole selection for that. Initial. Go to the seller. Initial. On to the next. All right, so access to the property is just asking if it's vacant. You can go, you have the right to install a lockbox to go see it. If it's occupied, you need 24-hour notice, etc. The escrow agent, this is very important. This is where I put my attorney's name and his company name, as well as my attorney's phone number. If you had a title company or closing company that you're using, you put their information in there. Close the escrow, this is where you put in the date that you want to close, usually 30 days out from when you get the contract executed. I actually started pushing it to 45, just because some people are sticklers and issues can arise, and if you close it early, great. If not, then at least nobody's up your ass. Escrow and closing fees. So this is generally where I will come make these check boxes, and then I'll just check buyer shall pay all closing fees. That's usually how it goes. Again, initial, just like we did before. And then you basically just read everything. It's pretty straightforward. Is it going to be full of trash, or is it going to be without trash? That way, at the end, if they leave a bunch of trash there, the end buyer can, make them pay for it because it's in the contract. Whether they want to leave appliances, here's all just disclosures that are standard to real estate contracts. Again, initial, more disclosures, initial. Agency disclosure, so this is just to inform them that I do not hold a real estate license in Illinois, so they can't come back and say that I misled them and said I was a realtor. So this protects me. Initial. These are mostly disclosures. If there's any extra terms, like they get to stay in the property 10 days after closing or something like that, you write it in here. Otherwise, you just write none. And then, signature, date, seller signature date, initial, done. And then you would hit next, make a subject letter for your email, type in a message if you need to, sign by Monday, please. And then that's it. Now I usually set a signing order so that I'm signing first, which is why there's a number 1 right here. So I can sign it first, write in all the additional information that needs to be written in before they see it and sign it. Hit send, and you're done. All right, so that's the PSA from beginning to end. Once you have that executed, you'll either send it over to your closing attorney or your title company to be kept on record. And then during that time, you're gonna go and get the second contract that we're about to go over executed. All right, now this brings us to the assignment contract. Now the assignment contract is fairly unique to wholesaling, so there isn't really a standardized version of it like there is with a purchase and sale agreement. Now the assignment contract is between you, the wholesaler, and now a new end buyer. All right, now we have the assignment contract. All right, so I uploaded it in, hit next. Same thing as the purchase and sale agreement, add your information. Now the end buyer's information. And now I usually hit, like I said, set signing order. I'm first, they're second, next. All right, so this one's even easier. So this is just the date made. So everything's basically gonna be text if you need to write it in. Made on the 22nd day of August, let's say. All right, by assignee. Now this would be the end buyer's name first on this one, the assignee. You're the assignor because you're assigning it to them. So for the assignee, go to the end buyer, name, plop that in, assignor, that's you, name, pop that in, and then interest to the so this is assign their rights to the interest of the PSA that we assigned earlier, dated. So now this would be the date of the purchase and sale agreement. So let's say we signed that 2 days ago. That would be like Monday, August 20th, let's say. All right, for property located at, and then again, you put in the address here, 3 Example Drive. Legal description of, I leave that blank. The address is usually enough for a legal description. Assignee agrees to pay a total of, all right, so now, say they agreed that property, the PSA we had for $100,000, they agreed to pay $120,000. So you're making 20 bands off of that. All right. So you got that. And then you have to go type it in a number form. 120,000 on and before the agreement, original agreement settlement date of, and this is where close of escrow was defined in the PSA. We're going to try to stick to that. So let's say that was September 6th, 2022. All right. And now this is the non-refundable earnest money deposit. Now this is so that somebody doesn't say they're going to buy it, you sign the contract to them, they waste all of your inspection contingency and everything else, and then they back out and you're screwed. So for this, I always have it filled in 5,000 here, write out 5,000 there. And then held at, this is again your closing attorney's name, company name, and phone number. All right, then this is just a little bit of information, you know, if they don't close, they're not getting their money back, etc., etc. Today's date, and then signature of the signor and the signee. And that's it. The assignment contract's super easy. Hit next. Boom, done. All right, and that's it. The assignment contract between yourself and the end buyer is completed. Now, within the next 24 hours, the end buyer should send you your EMD and you're good as gold. Except a lot of hiccups could still happen that could derail your deal. So these extra contracts that we're gonna go over next can help prevent some of that. Alrighty, so lastly, we have the extra contracts, which you may or may not ever need to use in your wholesaling journey. I personally have had to use all of them multiple times. So for the most part, every wholesale deal is gonna have a purchase and sale agreement and an assignment contract. Now, these last three contracts are a little bit more situational, but are extremely good to know about and understand nonetheless. So let's get into them. All right, so now we're here looking at the extra contracts. The first one I wanna go over is the JV or joint venture agreement. So as you can see it pop up here, this is just the first page of it. You can read it word for word if you want, and I'll send it to you if you want, but you're just basically identifying the parties and identifying what they're going to be labeled as for the rest of the contract. And as you get to the end of the contract, that's where you fill in the percentage that you guys want to split it. This one I did 50-50, and that's pretty much it. And then after that, we will take a look here at the operating agreement. So this is really only if you form an LLC to do your wholesaling under. So if you make your own business, which I chose to, it just protects you and it keeps things more organized and a little bit more official, in my opinion. So for the operating agreement, this is between me and my partner. I no longer am partners with him, but we started the company together originally. He just ended up going to do his own thing. But you just basically are filling in all your guys' information, saying that you formed a business together. And then the second page, or this is actually the end of the operating agreement, is where you put in all the actual extra stipulations. So this is how I decided how the money was going to be divided into separate accounts and taxes, how we're going to identify what quarters are for our business, and then general duties for my partner listed right here, stuff like that. So this just kind of holds everybody to a contract if there's any disputes or anything like that. And then the last extra contract is the addendum. So an addendum is just basically an addition to your contract. So to a purchase and sale agreement or an assignment contract or a contract of any kind, if you wanted to add something like, oh, okay, we need to change the price, push the closing date back. For this one, this was to change the price of my first deal that I did, as well as change the close of escrow or closing date. So you just write addendum, you write which contract it's in reference to, and then you can pretty much write whatever you want, and then you just need a spot for both people to sign. And then that's it. That's all the extra contracts. All right, so there you have it. That's all the contracts that I've used in my wholesale journey thus far. And if you know anybody that's struggling with their contracts, share this video with them, give them a little taste of Jamestown. My exact contracts are down below, and if you found this information helpful, do not hesitate to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. You're in Jamestown now. Relax, take some notes, and let's make some fucking money.